Hi friends. Okay, so we are going to today make something out of the Tilda's Crafting Friends book. I did do a video where we had a look through the whole book, and I decided that I'm going to make a snail because they're so cute. So the first thing I have to do, or the first thing that needs to be done, is we need to find the pattern page and we need to print it out. And because there's two parts to this pattern and they are overlapping, we need to print out 2 copies of the pages. All right, so once you've printed out your pattern pieces, you're going to need to cut them out. So to do that, you just want to make sure, it's a bit hard to do it with the camera, that you are cutting just on the outside of that line all the way around. Okay, so once you have got your pattern pieces cut out, you need to choose your fabrics, and I have chosen a nice polka dot green for my snail, give him a bit of a slimy green look, and a swirly blue for the shells. So these are just fabrics from my stash. Unfortunately, I can't tell you who they are by because neither of them has a selvage on it for me. But that's okay. I'm going to go and iron these up so that we can get tracing our patterns. Okay, so I've ironed my fabrics. And we're going to start with the body first. Now what we need to do is that, because it says on the pattern that we need to cut 2 of these, we are going to just fold this with our right sides together. And we are going to draw directly around our snail. So he's got a little turning part here that we're just going to do with a dotted line, and then we're going to actually just draw. I'm just using a regular pencil. Draw around the pattern, and this becomes our sewing line. Now you could always print your pieces on cardboard. Having them a little bit more rigid would make it a bit easier to trace, but I have just done on regular paper. Okay, so we've got our lines there. We can always put a pin in just to stop them from moving. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to sew on this line all the way around. Okay, so we're at the sewing machine now. I've got some. Okay, so I've set my stitch length down to 1.5 because it's good to have it nice and tight when you're doing these toys. And I'm just going to move you down here. Hopefully you won't get too seasick while I'm doing this because you're sitting in my lap while I'm sewing. Okay, so I'm going to line the presser foot up with my starting point, and we are just going to do a straight stitch exactly on that line. And we're going to do a little bit of a back stitch here because those stitches are going to have a lot of tension on them as we pull. I don't know whether to watch my sewing or watch you guys. nice and slow around the curves. Just helps you stay on that line. The other thing about having the stitch length so small is it does help with those tight curves. And we've got a nice straight section. Again, I'm slowing down a little bit because we've got a bit more of a curve around here. Just at this back bit here, and we're just going to do some more back stitch just so that's nice and secure. And we'll lift up our lever, and there we go, we've sewn all the way around our little snail. So now what we need to do is to cut just a 1/4 inch seam around the outside. So I'm going to go a little bit wider where the opening is. You don't have to, but I just prefer to do it that way myself. We're going to just do that all the way around. Got a bit wonky there. Excellent. Okay, And the other thing you're going to need to do is clip all the curves. So you actually just want to do little clips nice and close to the stitches, but not through the stitches. And you're going to do it on all the curved areas. So I'm actually going to do this off camera because it's really tricky to do on camera. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have clipped all the curves on my snail, and that just is going to help us get a really nice shape when he's turned through. Some little clips on the tail too. So he is ready to turn out. We need to now do the shell. So we're going to do the same thing again. I'm going to lay out our fabric. I've got to work out which way. I think I'm going to have it go this way. So let's make sure he fits. When you place him on, make sure the pattern piece on, make sure that you've got enough room all the way around to give yourself a seam allowance. So that's fantastic. So now we just need to trace around this one as well. My pencil, just like we did the last time. Tracing all the way around. And I'll be right back when that's done. Okay, so we've traced around it and we are ready to sew. This time though, we are actually going to sew all the way around the outside of the shell. We're not actually going to sew this part. For this part, we're actually going to extend these lines just slightly down, and we are going to back stitch along those bits because we actually want to turn this bit underneath once it's on the shell. So we're going to start at the end of here, do a back stitch, sewing all the way around, and back stitch over here. We're not going to sew this part. Okay, we've done that now. I'm back and I have back stitched here. So if you can see that, back stitched a little bit here, followed that all the way around and done the same on this side. So we are going to cut all the way around. When we get to this part here, we're just going to cut directly in the middle of those there. And I'll be right back when that's done. Okay, so that is all cut and all the curves have been clipped. You'll notice that when we're in these really tight curves, I've done quite close clips in, so they're very close to each other, whereas on the larger curves there's not as many. They're a bit further apart. So we've got both of our pieces. We are ready to turn. So to turn them out, the best thing to use is actually a chopstick. I've got a metal chopstick here, which I really like because my wooden one that I did have kept sort of splintering a little bit in my fabric. So if we just use that to pull it apart, and if you leave it sitting on the outside like this and kind of shuffle it down, so you get to the hole, you can pull that through, give him a wiggle, and we're going to get the other part through as well. And just use your chopstick to help you. So the good thing about the metal ones, and these ones were just off eBay, and it actually came in like a box of 10 maybe, so like 5 sets, is that they slide really beautifully along the fabric. So I really, really like them, and they were not that expensive. So there we go, we're getting there. We're going to push out his little, I don't know, are they antenna? Push those out. And this is where it does help that you've done nice close stitches too. Always need cute make sure his slimy tail is out too. Poke that through. There we go. I hope you're in focus. Okay, so we've got our little snail body, and then we are going to do the same for his shell. Once we get to these really tight bits, it'll get a bit harder to do. Now we're looking, there's just a little bit more in there that I need to get. All right. Okay, so it's not necessary, but it can give you a nicer shape if you actually press these now before you start stuffing. It can just help you get the edges out. I don't know, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But these are all sitting quite nice, so I don't know that I'll do that for this one. But we do need to get stuffing. Oh my gosh, how cute is he going to be? He's going to be so cute. Okay, so let's get our stuffing. Okay, so I use 100% polyester for my toys. It's cheap and it works well. My biggest tip that I can give you is you want to do small bits at a time. So we're going to start with this guy. We're going to start with his head. So we just want to slowly work it in there. And the trick with Tilda toys that I found is if you think you've got enough stuffing, add more, because they are quite firm. And they look best when they're quite firm. So at the moment, that whole bit is only just filling up that much. So it's pushed right in. And so you're going to take your time doing this. Stick on a good movie if you need to. And just slowly work the stuffing into the toys. This is probably the most time-consuming bit next to the hand stitching. So I'll leave you there and I'll come back when I'm all stuffed. Okay, so I've got my snail. I've got my snail here, all stuffed, nice and firm all the way to the ends. And we can do that if we do tiny bits to start with. Otherwise we end up with hollow bits in these parts and they get a bit floppy. Same here, we've got nice and firm all the way around. So I haven't stuffed it as firm on this one because we can add some more stuffing as we're sewing it on if we need to. So I've just tucked in that extra bit there until we get a nice shape. And we're actually going to pin it to our snail. So if we get a little pin cushion, and we are just going to put some pins in all the way around. Let's do this side. You just want to mold the shell until you get a nice shape. Oh, he's looking so cute. So we can tuck that bit a little bit more. And once you've got it all pinned on, it's just a matter of hand stitching it down around the bottom edge. Really easy to do. And as you go, as you hand stitch, you might want to just leave one section open just to stick a little bit of extra stuffing in there as you go. Oh. Flinging him around too much, he's having a party already. Okay, so let's stitch him down and get his shell on his little body. Okay, so I'm just going to show you where I'm up to now. I have sewn my snail shell on all the way around except for just this little front bit here. And I'm actually going to use this tiny little section to put some more stuffing in, and you will be amazed at how much extra you can get in there. And having a nice firm toy just makes it look so much better. You don't get the folds or the wrinkles that you would get otherwise. So I've been able to put quite a lot extra. You can see it's getting quite firm now, all the way, which is what we want. Let's see if we can get this last little bit in. Look at that. Yeah, that's fantastic. So then it's just a matter of stitching up that last little bit. So we need to line the fabric up so it's nice and straight. I'm going to try to do this on camera. So I do like a ladder stitch. I'm going to slide my needle into the fabric, pick up some of the green, slide it along, pick up some of the blue. It's a lot harder to do on the screen. There we go. And slide it through, and we're just going to do that all the way around. So slide it back in here, pick up some of both of the fabrics, and pull it through. I'm just going to continue that the rest of the way around, and then we'll be ready to do his face. Okay, so I've stitched all the way around. And then I've just taken my thread and I've given it a knot up here and just threaded it through. So I can trim that off here and we can hide it in. And there we go. We've got our snail. Isn't he adorable? Okay, so now our snail needs some eyes. I use just plain black fabric paint, and what I actually paint them on with is the same needles, the same pins, sorry, as I was using before. So what I would do is work out where I want my eyes. So decide if you want them close together, a little bit further apart. And once you've got your placement of your eyes, you can actually use a pin head. So if I do this, I wonder if you can see there's a bit of a hole left from this. Just here. So this is going to be where we do our eye. So I'm going to dab the pin head in the black paint. I'm going to take out this pin, and I'm going to put the pin backwards with the paint on it for his eye, and we've got one eye. We're just going to do the same with the next one. Get a little bit of paint. You really don't need much, so honestly the tiny little bit on the back there is plenty. Let's try to find where his eye hole was. There it is. So I want his other eye about there. And there he is. We get just a little bit of regular blush. So I'm actually just using my blush. We can actually give him some rosy cheeks too. I'll give him another rosy cheek here. A bit more. And there you have him, a cute little snail. Isn't he gorgeous? So in the book, she has actually got the snail glued to a wooden board, but I'm not going to do that. My little snail's just going to sit in front of some pots, possibly. That's depending on whether or not my son nicks off with him, which is very likely to. So thanks for sewing with me today. Hopefully you'll come and sew with me again another day. Really appreciate you being here. Bye.